Yay, we are live. Now I just have to find me on Facebook. All right. Exciting, exciting, exciting. Well, good evening, everyone. Jan Edwards here with Paving the Way Foundation. It is our third Thursday of the month, our monthly parent tech talk. And tonight, I just have such a treat for you. I've known this woman for a very long time. And we just recently started doing some fun education and training programs together. And I just adore Miss Ann. And she works for the CAC. And it's funny because when I say the words CAC or letters, and they go, CAC, what's that? I go, well, it's the Children's Advocacy Center. And then the eyes glass over me even more. I'm like, I need to have Ann on my parent tech talk because she needs to tell people not only what the CAC is, but what's available there. Because it's not like you only have to go there for a thing. So, Ann, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks for being with me tonight. I'm going to have you introduce yourself because there's no way I could do what you do and all you've done justice. So please share with our viewers now and our soon-to-be viewers later.
Thank you, Jan. And we have known each other for a
We
very long
have.
time. I know we go way back. We go way back. So, yes, my name is Ann Pimental-Kerr with the Children's Advocacy Center at the Howard Phillips Center for Children and Families. And I know that's a mouthful, right?
It is.
So, what that means is we're located at the Howard Phillips Center for Children and Families. It's downtown Orlando. And we look like a daycare center. That's how cool our building looks. But if you
I
have,
noticed
yeah,
that. That's
right.
why even when I'm like, what? Okay.
People think whenever I show the photo of, where our building is located, people always say, "Oh, I thought it was a daycare center or a childcare facility." Well, we want it to look as friendly as that because children are coming to us for pretty traumatic reasons. And that's why we want it to look child friendly. So I've been there for 8 or 9 years. Prior to that, I was with the Department of Children and Families as an investigator, supervisor, as a trainer there. But my role now with the Advocacy Center is, of course, doing stuff like this, doing fun stuff like this with you, Jan, and doing trainings and educating the community and being involved with a variety of things out in the community. So I'm very blessed to be where I am now.
Yeah, so great. So let's talk a little bit about, I love the fact that you're like, it looks like a daycare center because we really want it to be warm and welcoming. So
Yes,
let's just, you're part of the Orlando Health crew, right? Which
correct.
is great. I love Orlando Health. What are like and I'm making up what I'm about to say, so you can say, oh no, Jan, we have 6 pillars, but I'm going to say,
Sure.
what are your 4 or 5 pillars that the CAC really stands on that the community knows? Oh, that's what they do. I could go there for that. Oh, that's good, right? So what are like the pillars, the foundational work you do, and then we'll kind of work our way up.
Sure. So let me go back to what you said about Orlando Health. So we fall under the umbrella of Orlando Health. A lot of children's advocacy centers do not. We just happen to fall under them here in Orange County. There's numerous other children's advocacy centers throughout the state, but they're all set up maybe a little bit differently. We're very unique in how we are set up under the umbrella. So I just wanted to throw that out
Great.
there. And we're very lucky to be attached to the Orlando Health Arnold Palmer because we work with children who have experienced trauma and sometimes they end up in the hospital setting. So we're very lucky to be able to have that kind of a connection. So as far as the main characteristics of what we have in our 3 programs within the Advocacy Center, we have our child advocates, we have our child protection team, and we have the healing tree. So we have advocacy, we have healing, the therapeutic component, and we have assessment and medical diagnosis and forensic interview.
Brilliant. I'm typing all those in. So child advocacy, child healing, and
Yes.
child treatment.
Yes, so it's assessment, advocacy, and therapy
Okay.
is kind of the easiest way to put it across the board. So child protection team, the advocates, and the therapeutic component, which is the healing tree. Those are the three
Got it.
programs across the board. And all under one roof. That's the
That's
best
pretty
part.
amazing.
Yeah, that's the best part. So, and that's the whole purpose of an advocacy center proper. So you can have a child protection team in some areas, in some counties, they have child protection teams that are independent, that they are not attached to an advocacy center and there's not one present. We are, again, fortunate that we have everything under one roof, child-friendly environment, so that if a child is coming to us for, again, these horrible reasons and they need to go to therapy, they're coming back to the same environment, the same people that they've become accustomed to and become a little bit more secure with, and they're going to them. So that's the beauty of having it all under one roof.
Well, and kids like consistency.
Yes.
And they
Yes,
like
absolutely.
certainty. They really do like certainty. That's one of the things
Absolutely.
we keep talking when we go out and about is we talk about, in reality, there is no certainty. However, if I know that I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and I'm going to put my feet on the ground and there's going to be ground,
Yes.
it's a good start.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
having a safe place for kids and, quite frankly, families to come back that's consistent
Correct.
really makes a difference. And by the
Correct.
way, I want you to know, Christy Robbins from the Rhode Island CAC says hi.
Oh, hi from Rhode Island CAC. Oh, how awesome is that?
Yeah, I love it. I
Very
love it. I love
cool.
it. She's watching on LinkedIn, so I can't interact with her here, but I just
Sure.
wanted to give her a shout out, and I hope she's okay with that.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah. So let's walk people through the process of, well, let me back up. What are some reasons people would bring a child to the CAC?
Yeah, and that's a good question. So not every child can come to the Children's Advocacy Center for whether it be an interview or a medical evaluation. So we are, let's say, the supplemental, I guess is the best way to say it. So we have wonderful partners, including law enforcement, medical personnel, school personnel, a variety of others. We have wonderful partnering agencies. Now, law enforcement and Department of Children and Families, they receive a lot of reports on abuse and neglect, right? So DCF, Department of Children and Families, gets reports on abuse that's perpetrated by a caregiver, someone who's responsible for that child. Law enforcement is someone who's not responsible for the child. So they both get reports. So for example, if there's a sexual abuse report, we get a lot of sexual abuse, physical abuse, domestic violence, those types of cases. So, but we can't accept a case to the child protection team, for example, without having law enforcement or DCF involved.
Got it.
So one of those entities must be involved. Those entities then refer to the child protection team for services. And those services could include a forensic interview. And a lot of times they do. So the forensic interview simply means, and it's not simple, but it means in simple terms that the child is coming in for an expert fact-finding conversation with somebody who has that experience to do that. So think CSI, right? Think CSI, someone who's in a specialized room with a child. Now, here's the thing, and here's what I want people to understand. They are in a child-friendly room with a case coordinator, is what we call them, a case coordinator, having a conversation just like you and I are having. But that case coordinator is so well trained in trying to gather information from this child as to what happened, when did it happen, how did it happen, those types of things, without asking leading questions, without coercing a child into giving information. And how do we know that's happening is because it's all on camera. It's required to be on camera. And law enforcement and or Department of Children and Families can watch from another room, the monitoring room. So they're watching in real time, but they're not allowed in the room. They're not allowed to help with the interview in that room. We don't want that child to be tainted, to be tarnished, to be lured into saying anything other than what they feel they need to say based on the questions that are asked. right? And it's
Right.
so very effective. Our folks at the Child Protection Team, they're amazing. They have really garnered the skills to gather information that is putting the bad guys behind bars. And that's what we want, right? We
Yes.
want that to happen. We absolutely want that to happen. So there are times when law enforcement will leave our building and they'll just go out and make an arrest based on the facts that the children are saying right there and then. So with that said, and stop me because I'll go on a tangent, but here's with that said, that we want, and everybody in every state wants someone in that professional capacity to do that forensic interview, because we don't want a kid who has gone through this traumatic event to have to recount this traumatic event over and over. We don't want them to have to tell the guidance counselor and the teacher, and then tell law enforcement, and then to tell someone else, and then they're going to have to regurgitate it again. So it's important that we limit those interviews to preferably just the one
Yes.
forensic interview across the board, so that we can gather as much information as possible.
Well, you just said something so powerful that I want to reiterate for the people that are watching now and people that are watching later. And also, too, we have another friend, Dr. Franny Bonaneri, is on LinkedIn as well. And she says hi. She's like, hi, me too. So
Oh,
we have some watchers on LinkedIn. It's really fun.
cheers.
One of the biggest challenges, and somebody just posted an article literally on LinkedIn about child interviewing and forensics and all of this. And the biggest challenge people have is believing what the child says.
Yes.
And when we go out and talk to parents, I'm like, look, your kid has no need to lie about this. Nothing. There is no reason for them to lie about what just happened. It was traumatic in the first place. They're petrified, ashamed, embarrassed, all of the things that we go through, emotions when we have a traumatic experience, to come and share with mom and or dad or a trusted adult, and for them to dismiss it, that's almost, in my humble opinion, but I believe it's almost as traumatic as the event. I have several friends that were traumatized as children. And when
you're absolutely right.
First time they told their parent and their parent didn't believe them, that was it. They just that relationship was done for them.
You're absolutely right, Jen. So that's a re-traumatization. So that's, a secondary trauma. And then somebody has already broken the trust the first time with some sort of a traumatic event, an abusive situation. Then the person you think is going to help you, or you have disclosed to, and it's been dismissed, that's another supposedly trusting adult that has completely shattered your world. So when people say, and this has happened many a times, people will say, oh, the child recanted. They took it back. They said that it never really happened. Well, there are reasons that a child recants. One of them is what we just talked about, is they were never believed in the first place. Well, if a child is not believed, why would they continue to say it and continue to not be believed, or be belittled, or say being told that they're a liar, or that they deserved it, or whatever the reasons might be? There are a number of reasons that we don't have enough time tonight to talk about.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
So kids do not just come out and make these allegations, make them up. So it is critical, Jen, just like you said, that we believe, and that we tell kids that we believe you. I believe you, and this is not your fault.
That right there is the most important thing. Right there. It's not your fault. Mm-hmm. It's not your fault. When we go in and we train kids, every time, because we have, 2 sessions when we talk to the kids.
Right.
Every time. Our first time and our second time, I'm like, look, you are being intentionally targeted, enticed, groomed, and recruited.
Right.
This isn't done cooked yet. Your prefrontal cortex, decision-making part of your brain, is not complete yet.
Right.
And the predators know this, and they're using that, and it's not your fault. And
Absolutely.
I say it several times.
Absolutely.
Right? And you can see their shoulders. It's like,
yeah. Absolutely. Because other people have told them it is their fault.
Exactly.
And they're right. They're groomed to understand that I did something to entice this, right? So, and to your point, and anyone who's listening to this at any point knows how wonderful Jan is when she talks to the kids. I mean, Jan is phenomenal. She is immersed in with the kids, and so the work that she does is it's amazing and it's so critical. When we get kids who have been trafficked as well, but we also get a lot of kids who have been sexually abused by someone who in a trusted role, right? So just think of that when we're getting those kids, that's increasing their vulnerability to be in a position to be trafficked. And Jan and I's role, we overlap in a lot of different things. The grooming process is very similar. The whole, indicators is similar. So the vulnerability of these kids who have been sexually abused has increased tremendously to be trafficked or to be abused again. And if they're not believed, that even increases even more.
Absolutely. And yesterday I was with some kids at a middle school, and we were having this conversation. I was sharing the story about the 11-year-old that was willingly got in a 25-year-old's car several years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, out of a Popka. And I tell the kids, I go look it up, right? And I had these two kids get all self-righteous here. They're like, well, she should have known. She should have known. I go, how? How would she know? Right? If you've got 13-year-olds being judgy and assumptive.
Yeah.
And that's their peers. Imagine if a parent was like, well, they should have known better. No, they really don't know better. And I don't mean that as an excuse. And you're working with professionals that are trained in trauma.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a group of college kids today. I'm like, we all had stupid stuff in middle school. Y'all remember? And they're like, yeah. I go, 1 minute you are, it's my forever love. And the next minute you can't stand them.
Sure.
The only thing that happened was your brain's rewiring. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing else happened.
Absolutely.
And when kids start to get that and their parents start to get that, then when a child does come forth, it actually creates a space for safety.
Sure. Yeah. And a lot of times kids, who want to disclose and they want to say something, a parent will say, similar to what you just mentioned, is you knew better. Why would you? This is not the time for that lecture. Not the time for the lecture. That's a shutdown for the kid. That is a complete, dismissive shutdown. And one of my favorite things that I love to say is, fix your face, mom and dad, fix your face, right? So if it's, whatever it is that they're disclosing on the inside, I know something's happening on the inside of your body, but your face needs to reflect, I love you. This is not your fault. I'm here to help you. We're going to get through this, and we're going to get through this together, and it will be okay. Yeah. It's going to be rough, but it'll be okay. That's what your kid needs to hear. The lecture can wait. You knew better. I taught you better. Well, Mom, maybe you didn't. Maybe you didn't.
Yeah. Well, and it's back to the prefrontal cortex. Like people think I'm nutty because I love middle schoolers. I just love them. They're just their little hearts. Their brains developed enough that they can comprehend what we're talking about, and they ask great questions because they want to learn more. But their hearts are right there. They don't want anything to happen to anybody. And so that's just the sweet spot, because they generally have older siblings, they generally have younger siblings, and they're the ones that can come and bring this information into the home and potentially protect their younger siblings, but also warn their older siblings about, that boy you've been talking to, I don't know that you should be doing that.
Yeah.
I learned this thing today. Let's go look it up together. Right. So it gives them that knowledgeable power, so to speak. Not force power, but I'm bringing something that you might not know.
Right. And they're more willing to, I think, absorb that potential. They're not at that age where they know everything yet. They're at that age where well, if I get more information, maybe I'll have a better opinion. And,
Yes.
know,
Yeah, that's why I love them. I let people think I'm nutty, but I just love little middle schoolers, and they're just so
which is
fun.
why we love you, Jan. You get out
They're just
there.
so fun, and they're engaged, and they come up with the best solution, even today, right, at the college. So I present a scenario. I'm like, let's say you're at a party and, somebody puts something in somebody's drink and you see it. I'm like, what would you do? And they, some of them came up with a couple of things, but you could see they were really struggling. And I go, let me tell you what my kids from the urban areas say, right? And these are middle schoolers and high schoolers. They got it solved because they're watching it happen. They see it happen. And when they put that scenario, they put the two and two together, and they're, firing off all kinds of great ideas to have that person get to safety while keeping themselves safe and while potentially making sure the bad guys get held accountable, aka call 911.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there's the three-prong process for you. And I heard you say that it's, someone from law enforcement or DCF, or it's got to be abused, reported abuse before you come in. So once a child's welcomed in, what's the process for? Because I think people are very confused about the role of DCF. Now, I know there's a lot of controversy about DCF. I know that. So I'm not being naive or stepping over it. However, the one thing I will tell you, the people I work with, they're fierce warriors for children, and nobody's going to mess with them on their watch.
Yes. And Jen, most of them are.
Yeah.
Most of them are fierce warriors for children, and most of them get in it for the right reasons. And I'll tell you that. So, and remember, I don't work for DCF anymore. I don't have to say that, but I will say that most of them really are. It's very difficult. The turnover with DCF has been awful. It really has been awful. It's not an easy job. It's not. It really is not. It takes a special person to want to have to deal with abuse and neglect every single day, cases of that every single day, and dealing with and working with families. A lot of the families are fantastic. When I work with a lot of wonderful families, but of course, no one wants someone knocking on their door from the State Department saying, hey, somebody called in a report and I need to talk to you about that. No one wants that. Who does, right? Mm-hmm. So I totally get both sides of the story, but the vast majority of investigators and case managers really want the best for children and their families. So with that said, so we've got the Department of Children and Families, which is a partner of the Advocacy Center, and of course law enforcement is as well. Department of Children and Families is required by statute to refer certain types of investigative reports to us. Sexual abuse, certain physical abuses, some domestic violence, some mental injury. So there's a whole list. There's a variety of them that they must, by statute, refer to us. Well, why is that? Well, DCFs, they're not making decisions in a silo all by themselves. And people don't always get that. They think that investigator who doesn't have any children and don't have a family on their own, how are they even qualified to make decisions? Well, they're not making decisions by themselves. They're making decisions along with their supervisor, along with their legal team. And if it's referred to us, which remember, we don't work for them. Mm-hmm. We are an independent entity, and we're providing the medical expertise, we are providing forensic interviews, we are providing multidisciplinary staffings, we are providing a lot of professional expertise to help supplement their investigations. So we all come together often, weekly, for multidisciplinary staffings to put it all out on the table and find out what's in the best interest of those kids. And not everybody always agrees. And sometimes it's a hash out at the table. But I tell you what, everyone wants what's best for those kids. Yeah. So that's just kind of how things intertwine with the child protection team and DCF and law enforcement. Now, with our advocates are the first people that the families see when they come in. Mm-hmm. So they're the greeters. They're the ones that bring the families back to the interview room to one of the rooms back there, gather information from the family, have that conversation, try and soothe some of the worries and some of the concerns that the parents might have, and really walk them through the process. What's going to happen now? What they're going to try and talk about in the interview room, which the parents are not allowed to even witness that. That's not the role at that time.
Good.
And a perpetrator is not allowed. A sexual abuse perpetrator is not allowed in our building. They're not allowed to come in. They can't come in.
No.
So the parent or the caregiver are the ones that are being counseled through this process. This is what's going to happen. Here's some providers that will help you through this process. This is what law enforcement's going to do. This is what DCF is going to do. This is the plan. What services can we help you with? You've been a victim of a crime. Here, let me help fill out this paperwork, because there's a lot of paperwork, right? So therapeutic intervention with our healing team, it's right across the hall. So we've got that piece as well. So there's so much that our advocates do to help the families embrace the fact that they have to be there, which is it's not fun. No one goes there for fun.
No.
So that's what our advocates do. And let me tell you, our advocates are amazing. With the rapport that they build with the family is just amazing. And of course, the healing tree, the healing component. I mean, that's just a given. We have a multitude of therapists in Orange and Osceola County. We've got bilingual. They use a variety of therapeutic modalities, depending on what the child is in the best interest of the child. So, and that's at no cost. We do not charge any family for any therapeutic intervention. We don't want any child to go without the therapy that they need.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool.
That's very cool. And I love the fact that y'all are bilingual.
Yeah.
Right. That's a big darn deal right now. Given the environment. And I know that, we love our friends at One More Child and Flight Center and Devereaux, all working with
absolutely
a variety of young people. And I know that they're seeing a huge influx of migrant children, a lot of accompanied migrant children. I was just out in South Dakota, and we were talking about the impact that's having. So are y'all seeing some of that, and how are you gearing up for this, new wave of not only children that I can't even fathom, right? I'm what I'm going to say. It's not going to shock anybody who knows me. I'm a little bit of a planning and control freak. So I want to know where I'm going. I want to know what I'm doing. I have my map out, right? All that kind of stuff. What time do I have to be there? I can't imagine coming to a place that I don't know. I know no one, and I can't speak the language. And then someone takes advantage of me.
Right. Right. And that's why people are taking advantage, is exactly that reason, because, hey, you need my help, don't you? And I can help you, right? So, yeah, and which sucks. Lack of better term. I mean, people are out there looking for people to take advantage of, which is, why you and I are unfortunately in business. We're busy. We're busy. So so our folks over at the Advocacy Center are busy, are very busy. And again, I'll go back to our advocates, who again are wonderful. They are all notaries. So if there's anything that the families that we work with need something that to be notarized, we can do it right there. And of course, we never charge for that at all. And again, with any of the paperwork or documentation, or if there's undocumented people that come through to us, we're not reporting. That's not our role. That is our role, is to protect the child. And if in protecting the child, this family needs something that involves documentation through the Victims of Crime Act, and they need to understand that, our folks will help to do that, to help gather that information, to help sometimes even with that relocation piece, depending on the situation. There's a lot that goes into that. So yes, there's a lot of pieces to that puzzle.
Yeah. And it's, and we know that they're petrified.
Yes,
They're
absolutely.
petrified
Sure.
because, and I was having this conversation earlier today with someone. I said, you got to look, and look, no one's perfect. Okay. We don't have the perfect police. We don't have perfect law enforcement. However, for the most part, it's their job to keep us safe.
Right.
It's not like that in other countries.
Right.
It's not like that.
Mhm.
And, so when you're coming from a underdeveloped country where the police are used for nefarious forms of crime,
Yeah.
the last person you're going to talk to or you're going to speak with is someone with a badge.
Right. Right.
And so
Absolutely.
to be able to provide a safe space where, you can actually help them and quite frankly, get justice served because, they might help put the bad guy away
Right. Absolutely.
or the bad actor.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, we have a wonderful relationship and partnership with our law enforcement agencies. And in Orange County, there are numerous entities because there's I don't know 20 some. I don't. There's probably even more than that. There's Orlando PD. There's the sheriff's office. There's Winter Park. There's just, and we have a really good relationship
Mhm.
with the with with all of them. And they're wonderful folks. I mean, a lot of our child protection team have the detectives on speed dial because of
Right.
the relationships that they have built over time, which is key to us being able to provide the service swiftly,
Yes.
and the needed services as quickly as we are able to do. So, I mean, we're just very, very grateful for that. On
Right.
that note, too, so like I said, law enforcement, we have a very good relationship, and they come to our facility all the time because that's part of their role,
Right.
but they don't come in uniform for the most part.
Mhm.
Why don't they come in uniform? Well, we don't want the kids to see law enforcement in uniform, not because they're bad guys in uniform. They're good guys in uniform, but we don't want the kids to have that visual or think that they're in trouble. Because a
Mhm.
lot of times, those groomers that we're going back to, Jan, they will say the police will do X, Y, and Z, and it's never good, right? So if they're seeing law enforcement, then it's reinforcing what the groomer has put into their head, and then that might shut them down. So the majority of the time, our law enforcement is coming in plain clothes.
Well, and that, that really makes a difference for creating a space of safety
Yeah.
and the conversations I was having earlier today about, the Department of Children and Family Services and the CAC and
Yeah.
our friends at Flight Center and our friends at One More Child and Devereaux and several other organizations is,
Right.
you know, our job is to keep families together. It's our
Right.
job.
Right.
And in keeping families together, you have wraparound and provide services.
Mhm.
Devereaux provides services. DCF provides services. There's several other organizations that provide wraparound services for both parents and the child.
Right.
Because I don't, I don't have any research on this, and maybe you can hit it, but point to it. But I don't think a parent or a guardian or a bigger, older brother or uncle or aunt wakes up one morning and goes, I think I'm going to beat the crap out of my niece today. I don't think it happens that way. I just don't. I don't think it's like intentional. This is what I'm going to do today. Something happens, there might be abuse or substance abuse, right? There might be that. And then something happens in a minute. And then the next thing you know, there you are at the CAC. So do y'all have research on like some of the sources and the reasons why? And I hate to say reasons because it's so much more complicated than that. But some of the core foundational, why children
Yeah.
and families kind of end up there, right? Because
Yeah. So
yeah,
that, I mean, that's a big question, but let me try and kind of narrow it down a little bit. So yes, there are times that somebody loses it. You're right. Generally speaking, you and I are not going to wake up in the morning and go, today's the day that this is going to happen. It doesn't work that way. But today might be the day that my boss reams me out for something that was not in my control. And my husband gets on my last nerves, and my dog does something in the house. And I am feeling sick and overwhelmed. And then my child comes, and just that one need that they have pushed me over the edge. And I did something that I cannot take back. a stressor that pushed me over the edge. That inexcusable on my part, something we can work with. Because I am incredibly remorseful for one. It's not a pattern, doesn't happen. We can work with that. But I will tell you, Jen, that there are people who do physically and sexually abuse their children on a routine basis. But remember, it's not just one, there's 25 maltreatments that we kind of look at, right? So if we're looking at domestic violence, well, domestic violence, everyone knows the general, concept of domestic violence, but domestic violence isn't kind of its own thing. With domestic violence, there's a physical abuse component. Oftentimes there's a sexual abuse component to it. Of course, there's an emotional abuse component to that as well, which is oftentimes even worse than the physical component of it. So we're looking at now 4 and 5 different maltreatments that go together. With sexual abuse, there's often emotional abuse, mental injury, physical abuse, variety of failing to protect. There's a variety of other maltreatments that go along with that as well. So someone's not going to wake up one day and say, sexually abuse a kid because they're having a bad day. It doesn't happen that way either. So this is oftentimes, and unfortunately, this is something that's happening routinely. Now, there are factors. There are factors that contribute to that. Drugs and alcohol can be a factor. Stressors such as financial stressors can be a factor. Conflict, of course, can be a factor. COVID has been a factor. A variety of things can be a factor. Vulnerabilities of a child can be a factor. It's never the child's fault. I'm not saying that, but vulnerabilities of a child. If a family member is sick and they have to be the primary caregiver of another family member, and then the child is a demanding child. So there's a variety of dynamics that can raise to that level. So there's no one answer.
Right. But you're pointing to a lot of things, right?
Right.
That I think a lot of people make the assumption of it's just one way. Like when we talk about human trafficking, it's like, oh, it's an over there issue. No. It's a right here issue. Right here. There we go. There they are.
It is.
Yeah, right. So it's a right here kind of phenomena. It's the same thing, I believe, with abuse. So let's kind of take the conversation in a direction of maybe I'm a teacher, maybe I'm I'm a homeroom mom, right? Maybe I am a youth pastor, a youth leader. Maybe I am an assistant. I teach Sunday school. Maybe I am part of the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts. Point being, I'm not a professional that hangs out and educates kids all the time. Maybe I am. What are some things for them to look for so they can have that conversation with that child, that they can let the child know you're not alone?
Sure. So yeah, I love that. And there's not one thing, going back to there's not one indicator, there's not one of anything. However, building a rapport with every kid that you're kind of mentoring or being a guide for or something like that. Trying to get to know that child a little bit more so that you can identify when a change is happening. So if there is, a lot of children are introverted. Well, being introverted is not an automatic indicator that something's happened. Children can be quiet, they can be introverted, and they can, they're not always as gregarious and outgoing as some others. And that is absolutely okay. But when that introverted child starts to behave in a way that is not the norm for that child, acting out, antagonizing other children, back-talking you, which is not their typical way of behaving, what do we usually do as adults? What is wrong with you? Yeah, no, you watch your mouth, young man. Versus, hey, tell me what's going on. What happened? Because
that
something
question right there. What happened?
What happened?
What happened?
Right.
Because I
What?
know, yeah, what it's and I always go to the conversation I had earlier today with somebody who said, look, I said, there's a source for everything.
Yeah,
Before somebody took an action, there was a moment before that.
sure.
What was that? What was it that they were doing, thinking, seeing? Like I've always, and I know he's no longer here, but Scott Peterson, the guy that killed his wife,
Yeah.
there are a million things he could have done.
Mm-hmm.
I really like, I wish I would have had the opportunity to go, okay, I want you to walk me all the way back. I get you weren't happy and you didn't want to have a baby.
Right.
Whatever. I get it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
What led you to that was the best choice?
Right.
The thing you chose. It's like you
Yeah.
could have drained the bank account and run away. You could have changed your name. There's so many things that you could have done that did not involve murder.
Right. Right. And that's a really good point. So sometimes you want to take me through every one of those baby steps. And sometimes even let's work backwards.
Yes.
This happened, but what caused that? And then what caused that to happen? Because there's, like you said, there's always a root cause for everything to happen. So conversely, with the introverts, think about those kids who are on the other end of the spectrum, the kids who are extroverts or outgoing, or, naturally those rambunctious children, when their behavior starts to change in a fashion that's unusual. And sometimes, and here's what sometimes happens, Jan, is the person in charge who is always having to run after this kid, they might be thinking, oh, thank God, she's finally calming down. Versus, wow, I wonder why. And remember, wondering out loud is always a wonderful thing. Wondering out loud. I wonder why he's calming down. I need to have a talk with him. Hey, what's going on? What's happened? You never know what, and they might not say anything the first time, but it's a conversation that could go something as simple as, you know what, Jan, I'm here for you. I care about you, and I'm always going to care about you. Even if you curse me out like you just did, I'm always going to care about you because that's what I do. I'm here for you. And that's the conversation this week. Next week, they come back to Sunday school. Jan, hi, I'm so happy to see you. How's it going? Tell me, how's things going at home? You build up that rapport. You never know when that child might say, Miss Ann or Miss Jan or whoever it is they're talking to. Today might be the day that they're willing to share something.
Yeah, the other thing that you said that I think is really key is being consistent.
Yeah.
Right? Being consistent, authentic, being consistent, loving, being consistent, connected. Just being consistent it's not like, Ann, hi, Bobby. You can't be that way and expect them to trust you. It's got to be like, Ann, Bobby, Susie, Sally,
right.
Or it's like Bobby, Susie, Sally, right? Either way, it's got to be consistent.
Yes.
Because when you're consistent, it's like, damn, is she always that happy? And once people see that you are, it's like, oh, okay, that's her normal constants. And I guess she really does care. Maybe she is safe.
Yeah.
Maybe it is okay.
Absolutely. And kids can tell.
Oh,
kids can tell if you're being genuine with them. They really can.
Yeah, and I it's funny because I think that's because it's still I'm still in marvel that the kids listen to me. I am. Still, when I get done, I'm like, I do. I'm in wonder and in marvel and in awe of them. And over time, I've discovered it's just because I'm straightforward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And it's refreshing for them. I don't sugarcoat anything. I'm age appropriate, of course. But I don't sugarcoat anything.
Right.
And I just speak to them straight. And it like cuts through all the BS that they've been listening to.
Right.
And somehow it resonates with them.
Right.
And then they take different actions. And I think that's the beauty of what y'all provide is this is a new action a family can take. This is an opportunity for a family. And I hate the term fresh start, but that's really kind of what it is, like a reset button, an opportunity to be like, stop, change, start. Okay, that's how it was. We're going to transition into something healthy, that works for everybody.
Right.
And now we're surrounded by professionals and people that are trained that actually want us to win.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Jan, that the number one um, uh, way that a child can heal is having that caregiver involved in the therapeutic piece. That is the number one piece. So, it's not the therapist providing great therapy. The caregiver has got to be involved in the child's therapy. Because just think, we all know about the child who is taken out of, let's say, a very rough gang-related community, put into a very nice school, learning new things, going back to the same community. They're not able to implement anything that they've learned in that community, so they fall back into the same behaviors, right?
Yes.
So if a child is learning new coping skills and ways to regulate their own behaviors, but going into a household that is just fix my kid and bring them back, they're not able to identify when a child perhaps is getting anxiety or having a triggering moment or feeling stressed over whatever it might be, and they're not able to identify that. They are re-traumatizing the child.
Right.
Because they might identify that as the child, again, acting out, or you're just trying to get attention versus I can see that you're breathing heavy. Let's sit for a moment and let's breathe. Let's breathe together. And then you can tell me what happened.
Yeah.
And that you're going to learn that in therapy. You don't learn that intuitively.
No.
You have to be involved in the therapy.
And I think there's something that you said right there that was so important. And that is, in order for me to know if my child's holding their breath before they talk, I got to be present.
Yeah.
I can't have my face in this thing.
Yep.
I got to be fully present with my kids when I'm with my kids.
Yes.
And nothing drives me nuttier, and people have known me to go interrupt it, is when a family of four is at dinner and they're doing this.
Yeah.
That's our battleground, as my friend Matt Richardson said. Our battleground as parents, as guardians, as grandparents, as aunties and uncles and neighbors and friends and parents of friends and all that.
Sure.
That's our battleground, is the dinner table and those little short drives to and from school, to and from practice, to and from the store. That's our battleground. And if your face is in this, guess who's going to win? And absolutely. I don't mean to make anybody wrong. It's not about that, but I got to wake some people up, and we got to wake some mommies and daddies up.
Yeah.
Parenting's hard.
Mm-hmm. It is hard.
It's hard.
And it shows, or it gives the illusion, or it could be true, but it gives the illusion that I'd much rather be on this than talk to you. I would much rather be interacting with this than even look at you. So that's just how important you really are to me. And unfortunately, whether it's true or not true, your actions speak louder than words.
They do.
They do. And that's what a kid sees. So the parent might say, hey, I'm listening. I'm just sending an email. But they're really not listening. They're just placating a child to say that. So you're absolutely right. The phone can be great, but
look, this is one of the most magical tools on the planet. The fact that I can get an email while I'm out shopping and respond, attach a document or a picture. It's magical.
I know, right?
And at the same time, it's a dangerous playground for our children.
You are absolutely
right. And I think I assert y'all have some pretty cool tools on your website. Do you guys have tools on your website that people
We
can
do,
use
and we have some wonderful trainings that we can provide a variety of things: reporting child abuse, indicators of child abuse, social emotional learning, on protective factors, on adverse childhood experiences, which that's the one of the biggest things that I want people to really get immersed in is, what is that? How does it affect people? Well, it affects children. When you become an adult, the effects go with you, right? If you're not
Oh my gosh, yeah.
familiar with how to regulate yourself, and then the intergenerational component, and so everything that you and I do professionally all revolves around adverse childhood experiences, and it doesn't stop at childhood. So we have so many wonderful trainings that we can provide to anyone who's interested, and the website that has our email address on there.
Yep. Yeah. It's caccentral.com. So
CACcentral.com.
y'all do trainings for parents and stuff?
We can, absolutely.
Okay. Yay. And for parents and other concerned adults.
Yep.
I love that. Okay, you're gonna. If you recall at the very beginning of this, you're like an hour. Did you see what time it is?
What are we going to talk about for an hour? But you're right. You're right. You're right.
It goes by so. Everyone says that like an hour. What are we going to talk about? I'm like, oh, you just wait. It's like having coffee.
I talk for another hour if you want to talk. Yeah, because there really is so much information that a lot of times people just kind of want to know and have that dialogue and have that conversation. I do want to just make sure, Jan, that I say before we go anywhere is that in the state of Florida, I just want to remind everybody that you are mandated reporters in the state of Florida. So if anyone in the state of Florida has
over the age of 18, correct?
Over the age of 18, if you have reasonable suspicion that a child has been abused or neglected, you must. Statute says you must make a call to the abuse hotline. And that's 1-800-96.
Hang on, I'm going to slow down. I'm typing.
Okay.
Age of
1-800.
Okay, hang on.
96.
So Florida Abuse Hotline.
Right.
Okay.
And you can just look up.
So it's
Google that. But
no, I like it on here. So 800.
1-800-96-ABUSE.
96 abuse.
And they have the trained counselors on the other end of the phone. I always recommend you get someone on the phone and not do it any other way. And then they can talk you through, what their plan is with your information.
Right.
So but you must, and I say must. That's what the statute says. You must. There are penalties if you do not.
Yes, there are, and and that's the thing we've had. I'm not going to say every time, but 90% of the time when we go to school, someone self-discloses, and we're on it. I've got we work real closely with one more child, so we've got their intake form. Sure. Our first call is to the Florida Abuse. Well, obviously we sit down with the child. Right. Next call is Florida Abuse Hotline. File the report. My third call is one more child. To provide wraparound services for a child if they're being trafficked. Right. And what's been interesting is there's been a lot of young people that have, and I'm going to call it digital trafficking. They've been trafficked on here. Mm-hmm. Right? You get enticed to send pictures, and then you send a picture, and then that's it. You either send more pictures, or they send the one picture that you sent out on your entire social media platform. Right. That is a form of human trafficking. Sure. So, and our kids don't know that in the state of Florida, if you're under the age of 18, if you take an inappropriate picture and you send it to somebody, that's now distribution of child pornography. And if you host it, that's now possession of child pornography.
And distribution, right?
Mm-hmm. Distribution and possession. Yeah. And it really doesn't matter your age. Now, it's a class 1 felony all the way up to class 1 misdemeanor all the way up to class 3 felony. And because our kids don't know, they're willing to have the conversations. And when we share that with kids, they get squirmy. Yeah. Because everyone's done it. I was just at a middle school yesterday. Yeah. Half of the kids, because we do pre and post tests, right? Because we want to see what they got and see what they learn or see what they think. Half the kids had sent middle school. Half the kids had sent a picture.
Yeah. And this is middle school. So for those of you who are listening, middle school folks are taking inappropriate pictures, meaning we're talking body parts, and sending them on their phone. And thank goodness that my kids are grown. And just think about during COVID,
Mhm.
You know, because it was COVID and everyone was in lockdown, the ramifications, and I said this early, I did a huge training earlier today, as well as Jan did on a different topic. Um, we're not going to know the ramifications of COVID fully for many years to come until the children of today are
Mhm.
adults. Because
Decades,
there's so many different things that went
decades.
have been traumatic to children during COVID. Well, one of them is exactly what Jan's talking about, as far as there's no oversight or minimal oversight or less oversight during COVID on phones, computers, tablets, or any device. And gaming, that's a whole other training. Because sometimes it's like, yes, go play a game. Just go play a game. Go get on your, yes, of course you can play your games. Of course you can use your computer. But, and there's no, so it gives the people with the bad guys who are sitting behind another screen so much more opportunity to gather other people. So Jan and I are talking. I had to see Jan. So me and Jan are talking. It's two of us on here. I don't know who else is out there. I have no idea who else is out
Well,
there.
we
So,
know Christy and Franny are watching.
so our two other friends are out there. So
We know those two are watching.
but the point being, there are, you just don't know, right?
No,
So
you don't.
yeah.
You don't.
So
So,
we have to be.
we got to be vigilant with our children. And
Yeah.
quite frankly, you're the one paying the cell phone bill.
Yes.
And which means you own it. And it's okay to be the parent that upsets their kid. It really is.
Right.
Because I'm going to say this from the children that I talk to, and I'll have you speak from your experience of watching the families, but you don't want to go see Ann.
You do not. You do not. Although I'm a lovely person for the most part,
Well,
the reason you do
fabulous.
not want to have to come to us is because you're only coming to us because there's been allegations of abuse or neglect. And I would not want that for any child. Children have the right to feel safe and stable in their house, and to be safe and stable, and to be protected.
Yeah.
Somebody had said, and I don't know where I heard this, and maybe you know, Jan, let me just make sure I have it right. Kids don't have a right for privacy. They have a right for protection.
Yes.
And I'm sure I butchered
brilliant.
it.
That's brilliant.
So there's a better way to phrase it. But we're always talking about kids. Kids should have some privacy. Well, you know what? Let's work that out. But if we're talking about a right to privacy as a child or as a youth versus a right to be protected, protection wins out any given moment.
Day.
And
Every day.
who is the protector? The caregiver of that child. So as a caregiver of that child, we need to help the kids make good decisions. And we need to make good decisions in their best interest. I mean, there's a whole big entity that revolves around that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So with our remaining minutes, I'm going to put your website up.
Okay.
And Franny said, excellent discussion this evening. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Franny.
Opportunity. Yeah, she's awesome. So, if we can, let's leave parents with 3 easy tips or 3 easy tools if they feel like they're about to lose it, right? And the hand is raised, or the words are about to come out of your mouth that you can't get back. What are some 3 simple tools to leave parents with tonight that can, quite frankly, keep them out of the CAC? And as lovely as you are, have them go to the Osceola Children's Cabinet or the Orange County Children's Cabinet to get involved, to help our children.
Get involved,
let's have them do that.
Yeah, a lot of times what we do see, and remember I talked earlier about the protective factor. So, well, what does that mean? If somebody is getting to that point, they've either shunned people who cared about them, and there's a variety of reasons for that too: domestic violence, drugs and alcohol. But in making sure that you have supportive people in your life, And that's not easy to do if you don't have it. So I'm not saying, oh, magically snap your fingers and you have it. Those people, we can reach out to people who we think might need it, help them get those supports that they might need. Or if you recognize that this is something that you feel you're falling into a bad place, take ownership and reach out. I will say too, Jan, and this could be a controversial statement, but let me say it anyway. There have been times that a case has been called in, services have been offered, accepted, and the family has come out better for it.
Yes.
Because they got to the point that they didn't know what to do, and their action caused a reaction that was not necessarily a great one, but that caused a circle of protection around their kid, around their family, and then supports were provided, accepted, offered, and the parents have to be willing to work. It's not forced on them. Have to be willing to own it. So the people who are involved have to be the good ones and have to be willing to work and not be like, if you don't do this, we're going to do this. It's a matter of helping them through it. So there are good ramifications to it as well.
Absolutely. Well, the thing I talk about is, you know what? We don't come with a handbook. There's no Jan handbook as a child or even as an adult. And trust me, I think some people wish there were. We don't come with a handbook, right? As parents, we don't come with a handbook. As kids, y'all don't come with a handbook. Yeah. And somehow, somewhere along the way, I'm going to set Dr. Spock aside. We're just supposed to know how to do this.
Right.
In today's environment, no, we don't. And there is no shame, and I'm going to say that again, there is no shame in seeking
reaching out
support for you to win the game of parenting. And I put game in quotes because it's not a game. You're dealing with life and death, but you can kind of look at it as, you know, the very first time you attempted something new, the very first time you baked a cake, or the very first time you played a guitar, the very first time you threw a football, I promise you it didn't go well.
Sure.
First time.
Right.
But you practiced and you kept trying and you kept trying and you got coaching from people and you tried different recipes for your cake, or, you know, you watched a YouTube video, go, oh, my fingers are supposed to go here, not there to play that chord. Right. And oh, I need to cock my elbow back when I throw the football, whatever that is. Right. You got coaching to improve that particular skill. Parenting is the same thing.
Sure, absolutely. And if you screw up baking a cake, you can chuck the cake. Yeah. You can't do that with children.
No, you can't.
Right? No, and and I can just talk personally for me, if I knew then what I know now, holy moly, it would, you know, and only because you do better when you know better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you do better when you know better. And, you know, the other piece to that is, are we ever told kids, you will feel certain things when you have children because you'll get angry, you'll get frustrated, and you will feel X, Y, and Z. You're going to feel more love for your children than you ever thought was possible. You're going to feel more joy and happiness than you ever thought was possible. You're going to feel more frustration than you ever thought was possible. Right? People don't go there. Mm-mm. But it's a truth. It's a fact. But how do you handle that? Everyone knows how to handle the love.
Yes.
Right? How do you handle the frustration? Or if you feel like I don't know what to do. Why is my baby crying so much? I don't know what to do. So we don't get taught that. And you know, there's a lot to learn from
there really is. And there is no shame, really. Like I said, we don't come with a handbook. If we did, it sure make things easier, but we don't. And so I just invite each and every one of you that's listening now and that's listening in the replay, you know, if you're struggling with something, almost every single insurance company has a 3-time free mental health thing. There are mental health counselors available at almost all the neighborhood center families. It's the family center and NCFs.
Neighborhood Center for Families.
Yes, Neighborhood Center for Families. I just know that acronym. Right? So, you know, there's help available.
Yes.
There really is.
There are good people and good resources out there.
Yeah. And it's okay to pick up the phone and be like, look, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. And, and I liken it to any athlete. There's not one single Olympic athlete that ever got to the Olympics by themselves.
You're
Not
absolutely
one.
right.
There's
And
not
push
one
comes to shove.
CEO. Yeah, there's not one CEO that got to where they are by themselves.
Absolutely.
There's not one movie star or rock star or musician that got to where they are at the highest levels by themselves.
Absolutely.
So there's no reason for us to think that we're supposed to do this thing called life, this thing called parenting, this thing called relationships alone.
Yeah.
There is help.
211 is a great resource for those of you in Florida. 211. If you don't know who to call or where do I call or what did Jan say, and 211, you can tell them what your needs are, and you can actually go online too and work your way through that. But they're a great resource, and they can help you through that too.
Yep, I love 211. They can assist you. I'm typing that in the notes so people know. So, Ann, thank you. Guess what? It's 9:05.
Oh my God.
See? So just thank you so much for being with me tonight. I just so appreciate the knowledge and the inspiration and the motivation and reality that you shared with the people.
Thanks for the invite, Jan. I do appreciate that as well. And, I love sharing about, of course, what our advocacy center does and how you and I intertwine and, interconnect. And there's some good people out there that really want to help.
There are lots of, and I was at a conference in Tampa. There were 600 law enforcement officers from around the country learning about how to manage and talk to and deal with and investigate human trafficking. In the classes, the kids I went and talked to afterwards, their eyes got huge. I said, look, there are thousands of law enforcement officers, victims advocates, analysts across the country, literally working around the clock to try and keep you safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not alone. So I'm going to leave y'all with that. You are not alone. There is help available. And I just invite you to reach out because you matter. You're wanted, you're needed, and you matter. So thank you everyone for being with us tonight. I really do appreciate you listening and tuning in and sharing our Parent Tech Talks. And Jan Edwards with Paving the Way Foundation. And we will see you next month. Good night.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Jan.